I'm going to stay sort of on the big picture, give you a little background of why Wilder Research does economic analysis, including return on investment, how we see our role in that, and where we see ourselves headed in the future. We've actually been doing this type. We added economic analysis, including return on investment research, about 8 or 9 years ago to the types of services we provide for nonprofits and government. And I'm wondering how many of you actually knew that we did this type of research before you got in the invitation to this event? Oh, I was going to be unhappy, but it was almost a 40%, I'd say. So good, thanks. So just like all the research that we do at Wilder Research, it has a mission. It's part of the mission of the Wilder Foundation. It's to improve the lives of individuals, families, and communities. So we're paid consultants, but we're part of that mission, and we provide objective, nonpartisan information and analysis. We let the chips fall where they may. You know, we might be hired to do work, but whoever we're doing the work for doesn't get to manipulate the data or the findings. We're providing objective information based upon valid results. And for all of the work we do, including the return on investment work that we do. And our intent is to promote common understanding on just what is the economic value of investing in services for individuals, families, and communities. What do we get when we achieve those expected results in whatever human capital program it is? It could be an education program, it could be a workforce program, it could be a health program, it could be a home visiting program, substance abuse prevention. We're interested in saying, how can we monetize those outcomes and show the economic return? We're also interested in the reverse, that part of the message that I've been delivering around early childhood research, people sort of got glazed eyes over, we got this 7% return, we got this 14% return. But it's also important to know if we don't invest wisely, there's a cost of not investing. Those costs actually add up if you don't prevent that spending. We're wasting money if we don't invest in kids. And so it's important to know that it's not just a return, but there's also a cost to society and to taxpayers and to individuals if we don't invest. And that's an important message that we're trying to raise awareness about. As you do this work, and as more people, because it becomes more popular, there may be more people getting into it and doing sort of back of the envelope or fast analyses. And we want to be part of this movement of return on investment for nonprofits that's within standards of key economic assumptions. For example, when you're looking at the costs of incarceration, do you add in the full costs of one person, or do you look at the marginal increase of adding one more person to you're not building a new prison every time someone gets arrested. There's marginal costs as opposed to the full cost. Or if someone, for jobs and training programs, for example, what's the most valid way to look at the wages? If you're trying to improve their wages, what's their wages at baseline? Is it the most valid approach to use self-reported information when they start the program? Or is it more valid to say get administrative data wage data from the state and to get an average wage over the prior 18 to 24 months? So we want to work with organizations doing this type of work so we're all doing this, have the same assumptions. So if 5 different vendors are doing ROIs of workforce programs, we don't have 5 different sets of assumptions that come up with different answers, and we don't know which one to believe. We like to be all on the same page with regard to assumptions, because fundamentally, ROI research is based on assumptions. I call it faith-based research. It's all based upon, you better read the assumptions in the appendix. It's not just the bottom line, but it's the assumptions that's an important part. And we want to be part of that creation of those assumptions. And things like we're doing here this morning, we want to engage community people, community leaders to understand, the return on investment, but also the cost of investment and how you can achieve the best results for individuals, families, and community. It's also important to go beyond just the basic number of, the bottom line number of it's a 4 to 1 return, or it's a 7% return. But it's important to, and what we want to do is to help sort out where those costs and benefits accrue. In some programs, the participants gain all the gain, there's all the gain, but there's very little return to taxpayers or to the state. For example, we looked at programs that serve adults with disabilities. There's not a lot of return to taxpayers for that group because their wages barely get above minimum wage. But yet their lives are stabilized, they get it, their self-esteem and morale goes up. They're getting out in the workforce. It's a huge return to the individual, but there's no return to the state. The costs to the state or the funders are higher. So it's important to know who benefits, where those benefits accrue. Is it, the Jeremiah program pulled out especially what was the return to the private funders in all this compared to, say, state funding or to the participants. So when you look at beyond the overall return, you start to see who benefits, and that's important. And when you look at who benefits, because we have so many disparities and inequities among different groups in the state, which is a huge challenge for policymakers and communities, part of where we can look for variations in benefits and costs is to look to see which groups benefit more by geography, by race, by place. So it's important to dig beneath by age and so on, total number. So for example, in our supportive housing ROI for Minnesota, we saw that for individuals, it almost broke even for the cost relative, the return relative to the cost. There's a bigger return for family supportive housing, and it looked like even a bigger return for youth supportive housing. So it's important to see where the benefits might accrue and who might benefit more. And that's the type of thing we'd like to get involved in more, and why we're in this business altogether. Let me just give you a little background. So we do 2 basic types of return on investment studies, and we have a track record over the past 8 or 9 years. We do about 8 to 10 ROIs for programs, individual programs every year. We're working on those every year. And some of them are program specific, like looking at the Dakota County Drug Court, the Fathers Project, which is part of Goodwill Easter Seals. We looked at the return on investment in St. Paul's Project Early Kindergarten, and then, like we're here about today, Jeremiah program. But each of these are part of a larger system, and we also are interested in doing more system level ROIs to get a look at the bigger impact in returns. So for example, we looked at all the drug courts in Minnesota, or we did an analysis of programs that might be appropriate to be part of that human capital bond program based upon their track record and the kinds of outcomes they achieved. More than one workforce program, but a group of workforce programs. We did for the state of Minnesota, we created another way of thinking about the return on investment or the cost of not investing in early childhood. It's called the One Child Dividend. Looking at not just it's a 7% return, but in Minnesota we know based upon what current rates of spending and effect sizes of effective programs and the demographics, that for every child that you get prepared for kindergarten in Minnesota would otherwise not be prepared, or if you don't do that, it adds up to $56,000 every single time. So we could gain that amount or we could lose that amount. We could waste that if we don't invest wisely in kids. We've done that for Detroit, some places in Ohio, for example. It's another way of getting a number around what it means to be ready for school. And then we did a statewide supportive housing ROI. Most of our system level MacArthur Foundation ROIs have been used to support or inform policies used by advocates to support legislation, and have been successful in the past year around scholarships for kids, for example, and more supportive housing. And what we're interested in doing is continuing to do work with individual organizations to help them conduct ROIs like we did with Jeremiah, to help them either improve their programs and to hold themselves accountable for the results and to see what the returns are on their investment. But we're also in the process of developing what we call this center for ROI research that would focus more on our collective attention on those system level ROIs, to look at the economic value of wise investments at the system level. So if you're interested in helping us do that, I'll be here at the end. Come up, talk to me about that later.